Today we are going to study about the steps required for a PN junction fabrication. So the first step is we require a silicon wafer. So in this case we are taking a N-type silicon wafer, and then silicon oxide is grown over N-type silicon. So this oxide can be grown either by dry oxidation or by wet oxidation. A layer of resist is grown, photoresist is grown on this SiO2 silicon oxide, and when a layer of resist is grown, after it is heated to around 80 to 100 degrees centigrade. It is called soft baking, and to remove solvent and get a better adhesion for the photoresist. After this, the resist is exposed by this reticle. The reticle is nothing but a form of a kind of glass in which it is such that only some of the area will allow light to pass through it, and the rest will not allow light to pass through it. So in this case it is the UV radiation that is falling on this reticle, and it is blocked in the shaded region, while it is allowed to pass through the region which is transparent. So because of it, the photoresist actually gets polymerized in the areas where it is exposed to UV radiation, while it is not polymerized in the area which is not exposed to the UV radiation. Because of it, which the polymerized area becomes toughened while the unpolymerized area is softer, and therefore if you dip it in a developer, it will so you will remove the resist from the unpolymerized area, while the polymerized area it will not be removed. After it, again it is baked for some time to get to enhance the adhesion, and then in order to remove SiO2, this entire device is put in an etchant. In this case HF will work because HF is a very good etchant for SiO2. And then in order to remove the resist, again put it in some suitable etchant which can remove the photoresist. Sometimes even oxygen plasma is used to remove the etchant, and this process is called the lift off. And then so this cavity is formed here, and now we can dope it, and doping can be done either by dopant gas or accelerating impurity ions, so such that the ions will enter only the area where there is no SiO2, while wherever we have SiO2, the ions will be masked and will not reach the N-type silicon wafer. So the doping of only a particular region will take place, and this is how a PN junction is formed. So the last step will be metallization, because we want a contact on a P-type silicon and on a N-type silicon. So metal is deposited on both the sides, and this step is called metallization. So these are the steps that are required for a PN junction fabrication. So we see that the first step is actually what we require is a silicon wafer. So single crystal silicon first of all we require. So let us try to understand single crystal silicon wafer fabrication first of all. So silicon wafers are actually fabricated from silicon ingots, and then silicon ingots are nothing but single crystal silicon cylinders. So the first step is actually, let's start with quartzite, which is SiO2 in a furnace, and some carbon source, and carbon source could be coke, coal or wood, and then it is mixed with SiO2 and it is heated in a furnace. So carbon will react with SiO2 forming silicon carbide. Silicon carbide with SiO2 will give you silicon and SiO and carbon monoxide in gaseous forms. So S means solid form and G means gaseous form. So this silicon that we form here is actually 98% pure. It is not of very high purity. It is called metallurgical grade silicon, MGS silicon. And then this silicon that is formed is treated with HCl, and trichlorosilane is formed, which is liquid at room temperature, and by fractional distillation it is all the impurities are removed from this trichlorosilane, and then it is treated with hydrogen to form silicon, and this silicon is electronic grade silicon. It is polycrystalline in nature and it has very high purity. It has impurities in parts per billion. So this fractional distillation process is actually a loop process. So this is done again and again so that more and more impurities can be removed from trichlorosilane. So now in order to convert this electronic grade silicon to single crystal silicon, Czochralski technique is used. For 80 to 90% of silicon wafers are fabricated by Czochralski technique. There are other techniques also which can be used to form single crystal silicon wafers, but Czochralski's technique is the most efficient one and widely used. So in Czochralski technique, if you have to summarize it, what is done is that a seed of a particular orientation is taken, whichever is required, and it is dipped into melt of EGS, electronic grade silicon, and then it is when it is dipped, part of it will melt down and part of it will start attaching to EGS, and then you pull it very slowly so that crystal formation can take place. So silicon sticks to the seed and then you pull it. So crystal puller is required, and the pulling is very slow so that single crystals can be formed, and the speed is typically in few millimeters per minute. Okay, so in the Czochralski technique you have a crucible, and it is, in this case we have a graphite susceptor, and fused silica is coated with fused silica so that there are lesser chances of contamination. And there is a seed holder, so this is the seed, and there is a seed holder, and the seed holder is rotating, and it is dipped in electronic grade silicon, and then it is lifted, and when it is lifted it is also rotated, so it is rotated counterclockwise, and also the crucible is also rotated, and it is they are rotated in different directions. If it is counterclockwise, it will be in clockwise direction. Also there is some argon flow, so you also require an exhaust so that this entire crystal growth can take place in argon atmosphere. So and the you also require some pulling mechanism, crystal pulling mechanism here, which is a few millimeters per minute. So, so this clockwise and anti-clockwise rotation is required so that uniform temperature is uniform, and uniform growth rate across the entire length of the furnace is there. After this single crystal formation, we get these ingots and grind the surface to get a particular diameter. These are cylinders kind of things, and these cylinders are from the surface, we require particular diameter, so you just grind them and get a particular diameter, and then grind some flat regions on these ingots, and these flat regions actually will tell you what kind of a wafer it is. So by just looking at the wafer you will know what kind of a wafer it is, and you need not keep them so this is a way of storing them and knowing which kind of a wafer is there. So if there is one larger flat, which is a primary flat, and the smaller flat at grinded on the surface at 45 degrees, it is a 111 type of N-type silicon wafer. If we just have one primary flat, which is a larger flat grinded on the surface, it is 111 P-type wafer. If you have two flats and they are 180 degrees away from each other, and one is primary and the other one is secondary. Secondary means a smaller flat, it is 100 N-type wafer. While if the primary and secondary are at 90 degrees to each other, it is a 100 P-type wafer. After this, the ingots are sliced by using a diamond saw into wafers, and then these wafers are lapped using a mixture of aluminium oxide and glycerin to produce uniform surfaced wafers, and then at last they are polished to get a very smooth surface. So this is how you get silicon wafers.